What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MCU Reviewed here on the Geekiverse. I'm Josiah Leroy. With me, our usual suspects, Baba Yaga, John Fick. John, welcome back. How's it going?
Howdy. I'm doing well. I'm excited. Doctor Strange. Just
Doctor
looking at
Strange.
Doctor Strange, what we're talking about today. Just looking at the lineup of films coming up, man. Like it was hard to get excited for Doctor Strange, but we'll talk about it. But what's coming up later is just, man, we're in for a good run of some good discussions.
Listen, Guardians Volume 2 is after this. And for me, it's the best, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 movies after that. Like the best streak of films that just are heavy hitters after that. We'll talk about those in the subsequent weeks here. Also, of course, with us, JT. JT, how's it going today?
It's going good. I'm getting nervous. It's going to be harder and harder as we go along to pick, where we want to put these movies. I think it'll be easy to put them up to a certain point, and then we're going to start to argue a little bit of, where we're going to put them after that. But I like Doctor Strange. It doesn't seem like John is too interested.
No,
I mean,
that's not what I meant by like.
It's just not the
hard to
hype.
Yeah, exactly. So like hard to get excited for.
Okay.
We're looking at the stretch of movies in front of us. Prior to this week, you see, you see Guardians 2, you see the first Spider-Man film, you see all Avengers Endgame and stuff coming up, and then Doctor Strange is kind of the one that starts that off. So the hype isn't there, but
I see what you're saying.
We'll talk about how I feel about the movie in a second.
Yeah, no, I get that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm just, I'm excited. I like Doctor Strange a ton. So
You guys were skeptical of my skepticism when we were talking last on last or 2 weeks ago now, the last episode. So I'm as always interested to see where we flesh this ranking out. But this one is one that I have no idea where we land on the starting point, and I can't wait for John to make that decision later in the show. So if you didn't catch last week or last episode, we had Captain America: Civil War. We got that to the top of the rankings, so we've got a new number one. Very interested to see how long it lasts, if anything dethrones it, as we get into kind of this hot stretch of movies. As always, the show here, the MCU Reviewed, is presented by Fantastic. Fantastic is a division of 26 Shirts. Go to 26shirts.com/Fantastic. They sell pop culture and sports-themed t-shirts every 2 weeks. In those campaigns, they have a specific need that they fill. So a good chunk of the portion of money that you put down for those t-shirts goes to a family in need, a charity in need, or an individual. But you're helping out the community, you're helping those in need, and on top of it, you are getting a kick-ass t-shirt. So again, go to 26shirts.com/Fantastic. That's FANTEESTIC.
This might be one of the first weeks in a while that I didn't wear 26 shirts. I wasn't thinking about it. That's my bad. Usually I'm the go-to poster boy for it.
You are. It's okay. I think Dell will let it go, but just don't let it happen again. All right. So, intro on the current film, Doctor Strange. Boys, give me your kind of 101, your brief likes, your dislikes. Sum it up for me, John. Why don't we start with you?
So yeah, the way I started talking about it may lead you to believe that I'm not too hot on the movie, but it's so good. Doctor Strange is really, really good. It's just not one of those movies that I think about all the time, like maybe because the character himself, Doctor Strange, doesn't stand out as something super amazing, but the film itself, everything about it is really fun to watch. It's really well made. It's a great origin story. I love the movie. It's just not one of the movies I think about all the time when I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do an MCU rewatch. I can't wait to get to Doctor Strange. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on why that is, because maybe there's just not the moments and the set pieces and stuff like that. But it's such a good movie. I remember the first time watching it, having full faith in Marvel at that point, but still not being too excited about it. It blew me away the first time I saw it. Every time I watch it now, it's just like, man, I forget how good this movie actually is.
I think for me, I like the character more than I like the movie. And as we move past into future films that Doctor Strange has now been a part of, that also enhanced that character for me and took it to a new level. So that's been a common theme for us, right? Where we see sequels of movies or characters occur later on after their first appearance, and then we end up liking those older ones a little bit more or appreciating them. I think that's another theme here for me. JT, thoughts on Doctor Strange?
Rewatching it, I kind of looked at it as like the first MCU movie that really opened up the universe, right? Like they showed us when he went through the multiverse, and she started to show him at one point I think he went through like the quantum realm and all these different avenues of the universe. So it was really cool to see that. Loved some of the action scenes that they had. And the CGI was actually really good throughout too. Speaking of all the multiverse or going into the mirrorverse and all those things. I love obviously the fight scene when they're ghosts and things like that. So I love it. I love it. It was good.
The cinematography, the CGI, and the colors in this movie are so good. This might be the first time I've watched this movie on my OLED TV with having this movie in HDR. In the colors when he's going through the multiverse, and any time they're doing stuff with the magic, it just pops so well. It might be one of the best looking MCU films just based on the colors alone.
And I will say, I think it makes a difference in watching it in HDR because, not that there's anything wrong with the colors before, but they're very much defined now. And that's hard because there's such a palette here, right? Such a wide range of colors, especially when you get into some of those crazy moments later in the film. So, I mean, I can't imagine what the artistry looked like there from someone who worked on this movie. That's kind of crazy. I do think, as you know, we'll get to selfishly my notes later on in the episode. I always like to put in my 2 cents there. One of the things that I really loved about this movie is some of the action sequences where you've got all the different, we'll say the buildings are up on the side and the streets are changing pace, and it's very trippy at times, but it was done in such a manner that it was believable in this setting. Yeah, and that was not an easy thing to pull off. So in a moment, we're going to queue up the initial trailer for this. We're going to watch the Doctor Strange trailer. We always like to reminisce and see kind of, knowing where we are now in the MCU, what it looked like back then, a little bit of a retrospective. In terms of box office numbers, so this released November 4th, 2016, just a month ahead of Rogue One. It was a worldwide number of $677 million. Budget of 85.
Sure.
So
that's a low budget for this. I would have thought it would have been much higher with all the special effects and the CGI and stuff like that. Same. That's a pretty low budget. You know what? I mean, I was gonna say maybe the cast, but yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch and Tilda Swinton, like those are some names right there too. So interesting that it had such a low budget. But I mean, 600 is there's two filters here. We're talking about box office and how well a film did, but then we talk about box office and how well an MCU movie does. And we're at the point where if an MCU movie doesn't do $1 billion, that's not impressive anymore, right? But $600 million is great for a film. They made a lot of money.
It is great for a film. We hold the MCU and Star Wars and a few other Disney properties to a really high standard. So all in all, still extremely profitable, right? And that's kind of what it's going to come down to at the end of the day from the business side. But still, they made money, no doubt about it. Do you guys remember? So actually, before I finish handing this off, we're going to ask, as we always do, do you remember your first viewing when you saw it in the theater? Last night was my return to the theater. I saw A Quiet Place Part 2. And I got to say, just if I can go off on a tangent real quick, not take up too much time, went with my father. He has not seen the first A Quiet Place. I just saw it a few days ago, but I really, really wanted to see it. This was like my tent pole. I'm going to get back to the theaters with this. So in Western New York, I'm going to the Regal that's on Transit Road. And I'm pulling in the lot, and I'm getting goosebumps even talking about it right now. Like, this is a big deal for me. And I know you guys kind of feel the same way. And a lot of our listeners and viewers will. But I got goosebumps. I got just a little bit of a butterfly in my stomach. Like, I couldn't believe that I was going back to a movie theater, because it's been 15 months since I've been able to sit down, and a lot of people in a theater with everything going on with the pandemic. So to walk in with my dad, we go to every Marvel movie, Star Wars movie, everything. We just want to go. It's kind of like a guy's night. It's our thing. It was so special. And because I'm always the guy who gets the tickets on the credit card for everyone, I just, you reserve the seats and get them when they go on presale. I joked with all those points that like I have a reserved spot at that Regal. And of course, last night it was open. So this stupid spot right out front. That's become an inside joke. But got there, walked in, kind of, arm around my dad, and it was just a nice moment. And A Quiet Place 2 was a really good movie. So I encourage you, get back out to the theaters. Past that, we saw the MCU trailer for the return to theaters that we all gushed about probably about a month ago, where it showcased it's Stan Lee narrating. It talks about some of the past MCU moments. It showcases that moment in Endgame, and even my dad last night is like, I got goosebumps. But we got to see this on screen, and boy, does it make a difference. But guys, movies are back. Like,
Yeah.
John, you went back as well.
I have a very, very similar experience. So I think I mentioned this on one of the podcasts before. I had tickets purchased to see A Quiet Place Part 2 on March 20th, the day it was supposed to come out of 2020. I had 4 tickets purchased. Me, my fiance, and 2 of our friends were supposed to go see it, and that never happened because of the pandemic. And so Quiet Place Part 2, full circle, that's my first movie back to the theater as well. So it was crazy. I pull up my passes in my Apple Wallet, and I just have back-to-back Quiet Place Part 2 tickets, the canceled version and the version we ended up seeing when it came out last Friday. And my experience was similar. I went to the same theater. I went to that Regal on Transit there, and I was back and forth with the people I was meeting, and like it was a little bit hectic about like, all right, where are you? Like, who's gonna get there first? Who's gonna show the tickets and stuff like that. So I didn't have any of those goosebumps like pulling in and stuff like that. I walked in and smelled the popcorn and saw the lights, and I literally started tearing up. It was just like an instant reaction. I had no control over it, dude. I walked in and I looked at Courtney, and I'm just tearing up. I'm like, I didn't know I missed this that much. Like it was just instinct. It was just my senses, and it was crazy, man.
Wait, I'm like getting emotional. I'm like getting teared up now.
And I tweeted about it, man. It's like it's less about the fact that I'm back in a movie, but it's kind of more about like, all right, we did this. Like we're back to normal a little bit. So it was all of that. But go ahead, John.
I went. No, you're good. I went on Friday. Me, my sister-in-law, my wife, and my 2 brothers. I was nervous. Like on the drive, I went to the one in Quaker Crossing by the Bill Stadium, just because I felt like I needed to get some of the Bills energy in me to get myself going. But I start driving there and I'm kind of shaking, and my wife is like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "I'm nervous. I feel like I'm on a first date. Like I'm really nervous."
You're seeing an old friend,
and
man.
I walk in, and as soon as I saw nobody was in line for concessions, the nerves went away, and I got my food and I went straight into the theater. And we always have our same, no matter what, same thing, Joe. I'm the credit card guy, right? On purpose because I want the points. So all those points are still saved up, and I guess whatever was going to expire last year, because they started expiring them. I don't know if you knew that. They started like doing an expiration for the points, but because of COVID, they extended our points. So I had all that still. I got a free popcorn, a couple other things.
Birthday popcorn. I had my birthday gift down there. Everyone probably had that.
I saw my birthday. Yeah, I'm saving that birthday one still, and I got another one coming because our birthdays are next month. So, but yeah, I just genuinely nervous to start, and then just super excited as soon as I walked in, just like John. And we always like our seats so we always like to go all the way to the top. My crew, and that's just how we like it. This is how it is.
No, and watch it at home at that point. If you're that far away.
No, it's a big. I mean, come on, it's this giant projector screen.
You could argue that my TV is bigger.
Perspective wise, yeah.
I have a 70. I have a 75 at home, so I definitely get it. But
you get it, okay.
I totally get it. But we love all the way at the top, and just against the either side, right? So the first person in my crew down to 5 spots. So I don't care. I could have watched any movie. I could have gone and watched all the Fast and Furious movies again, which those apparently are coming out for free. By the way, it's on your Regal app if you're going to go out, watch a random Fast and Furious movie. Just nonstop. I could just watch it. I love the experience. And John, I've talked to you. How many times I told you, I don't care if they put on Disney Plus. Just give me some Marvel content. I don't do it anymore. Like I need to go to the theater.
I will be,
and I love that experience.
I love the
their
experience
opening
too.
night.
Yeah.
For the Black Widow and
yep.
for whatever else comes our way. Like I'm looking at my dad and I walk out after the movie, and we took our time looking at posters, and we're like, all right, Free Guy is on the way. Even a movie I probably wouldn't have cared about in Jungle Cruise. I'm like, I just want to be here. And I love that all 3 of us had this experience. So we did not plan this part of the show to talk about. We did not talk about it prior. It's awesome that we all got so excited and passionate about this. John's talking about tearing up. I'm tearing up because he's talking about tearing up. And then JT's got his crew back together, and it's just it's really special. Like some people kind of be like, it's a movie. You're paying $1 million to go eat a giant bucket of popcorn and see something that in a lot of cases nowadays you can see at home. But you know what? you're passionate about something, man, dive into it and go full steam ahead. Just enjoy it and get excited about it. And that's what we do at the Geekiverse. So really excited to hear that you guys had that similar experience. And I look forward to going to some movies together now that it's back.
Oh, hey, Rigo's doing private watch parties too. So if we ever wanted to get a private watch party together, I think it's 20 people you could do. So
Nice.
we'll talk about it.
I'm into it. I'm into it. You had me right away. So where I was segueing, I totally forgot. Do you remember the first viewing of Doctor Strange? What your mindset was? Tell me a little bit about it. John, why don't we go with you first?
Yeah, so I do recall this one. It was one that I don't think my group of friends got together and bought tickets for and pre-ordered and stuff like that. There just wasn't the hype around it. We were all planning on seeing it, but we just didn't make it an event. Just because, again, I talked about Doctor Strange doesn't bring the hype, or at least he didn't. Now, Multiverse of Madness, I'm sure I'll be first in line, but I actually took Courtney to see this, my fiance. We went like the Saturday or the Sunday opening weekend, and I dragged her to the theaters because we wanted something to do. I was going to go myself if she didn't want to come with me, and we actually saw it. I think we saw it in 3D, which was pretty cool for that because we went to the Regal in the Galleria here in Buffalo, and their RPX is their biggest screen, their loudest screen, speakers and stuff like that in the seats. And for the longest time, they were only doing RPX in 3D, which was super frustrating. So I had to like pick what I wanted. But I remember the effects and the stuff like that from this film looking really cool in 3D. That's my biggest takeaway. And I remember Courtney actually really liking it because of that. The 3D added something pretty cool to the movie with the colors, with the effects, everything like that. So that's my story from the premiere of this one.
Yeah, that'd be a good one to see in 3D. I never considered that. JT, do you remember your first viewing?
It wasn't super memorable. I do remember one thing about it though. It was the last time it was just myself and my brothers watching MCU movie together. After this movie, we expanded to my friend Grant, and my wife wanted to go more consistently. She knew nothing about it. Of course, she wanted to go watch Thor Ragnarok. Who wouldn't? Because Mr. Hemsworth. But
of course.
But yeah, it was the last one that was just the three of us. So it's kind of memorable in a sense. It's like we watch everything since before Avengers 1, and the last one that we watched together. They're just the three of us at least. So nothing else really memorable. I mean, it was like I said, definitely excited for the movie in general, just to watch it because I knew it was Marvel content, and I don't even feel like they were still building. Yeah, nothing really for we knew Endgame was coming at this point, correct? Or like the Infinity War Endgame, was that kind of right? But
yeah,
at this point,
Avengers
nothing
3 and 4 were announced.
Yeah, so but nothing in the movies really showed the events that could be happening in Infinity War. I think after this is when it really started.
I think we knew it was called Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2, so we were like excited to see the time stone. I think we come off Guardians, and we knew that there was a stone involved there. So I think that was the biggest thing. We know that there is a Infinity Stone. We haven't gotten like the breakdown of what the Infinity Stones were yet, I don't think, but we knew that there was a stone here.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was still called Infinity Wars. At that point, plural. Love that little tidbit. I feel like this was not a super memorable opening night for me, but Lauren went to see it with me, my wife, and maybe it was because of The Hobbit. But Lauren ended up really excited because of Benedict Cumberbatch, and I was too, to see him kind of enter the MCU. Another nice household name here, but not really past that. Nothing too crazy, I would say. What I would like to do, if you guys have it queued up, is jump over into the trailer. We can kind of watch and listen along. If you're listening to the podcast version, you just kind of have to get through it. But if you're watching on youtube.com/Geekiverse, you'll be able to go through this with us. But John, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Sure. You guys both have it up, ready to go?
Yes,
sure
sir.
Do.
All right, go ahead and play.
Stephen Strange. Might I offer you some advice? Forget everything that you think you know.
You're a man looking at the world through a keyhole. You've spent your life trying to widen it. Your work saved the lives of thousands. What if I told you that reality is one of many?
I don't believe in fairy tales about chakras or energy or the power of belief.
You wonder what I see in your future? Possibility.
Why are you doing this?
There are other ways to save lives. So much you don't know.
Teach me.
November 2016. We're getting old. Man, it feels like that sounds like it was so long ago. All I can say about watching this trailer again is the only scene that I remember is that final scene. I remember being like, "Oh, cool! They're showing him in his full outfit. That's pretty cool." And that the vibes that it gave me when I first saw it, whether it was this trailer or another one, was that I was just ready to go into it as Ant-Man Part 2. I didn't care about Ant-Man. I had just seen that movie. Not Siri is very interested in what I'm saying. I don't know if that came through, but she just screamed at me. That threw me off, man. I was like, it was loud enough to hear through my headphones. Jeez, Siri. Yeah, so the vibes were very similar to Ant-Man, where it's like, I don't care about this character. There's not much you can do to hype me up about it until I see the movie, and I totally trust you. So like, I'm in. I'm just gonna go see it, and that's very similar spot. The way I feel about this movie is the way I feel about Ant-Man. They crushed it, made me care about the character. They did something different tonally with the movie. This is a very, very intentional film in its tone. Like it's different. Marvel, they did it again.
I feel like same thing. I remember the end of that sequence, or that trailer. Like that was very iconic to me. And then I remember him talking about the power of belief. For whatever reason, that rung true in my mind. And then the way I looked at Doctor Strange is very comparable to how I think I feel about Eternals currently. Like, don't really know much. I know they're obviously established characters when you talk about comics, but past that, I'm just relying on Marvel's pedigree because I'm excited about it, and I love that it's all in this very well done connected universe. So, I'll probably end up loving Eternals because they've given me no reason to really think otherwise to this point with all these movies. So I was excited, but not like really excited. Like Guardians 2 was like circled on my calendar for like months on end. But Doctor Strange not so much. JT, what were you thinking when you saw the trailer? Does it bring back any memories? You tell me.
Speaking a little back to what John said about the Ant-Man trailer, how was the dark tone, but it was nothing like it when the movie came around. So it was dark, yes. I think the general purpose of the movie was to humble someone who was pretty conceited, right? I mean, the general understanding. But yeah, I was hyped for it. I mean, I would have personally liked a little more action in it to know that some action was coming. But also I'm of the accord of like, don't put too much in the trailers to ruin the movie. I think they used to do that so much way back in the day. So they kept it pretty good in terms of that, not putting too much in there to kind of back us up a little bit. So
yeah, I thought the tone of this trailer matched the movie, unlike Ant-Man, where Ant-Man was like, all right, we just watched that movie and then rewatched that trailer in our episode. We did like, man, that does not match the tone of the movie we just watched. I think this nails it. Kind of, it gets what it's going for.
I would agree with that. Ant-Man, especially us watching that trailer back a few prior episodes on MCU Reviewed, we saw that and we're like, what? Like, we almost didn't remember it. It was so out of left field when you got to the final movie, whereas this, I thought, was pretty consistent. How many times do you think you guys have seen this movie?
I think 3. I think this might be my 3rd time watching it. So I watched it in theaters when it came out. I watched it up to my MCU my rewatch before Endgame came out, and that last night or 2 nights ago, whenever I watched it, may have been my third time watching it. Maybe one more time here or there, but 3, I'm pretty confident.
JT.
Confidently, I'd say 5. When COVID hit, I was in a big rewatch everything phase, so I'm pretty sure I watched it a couple times.
I'm sure I would have,
obviously
but
the first time now.
Right, we were doing the show, so I was trying not to rewatch MCU stuff, and the first COVID summer is when we started the show, so I was making sure I was not rewatching stuff until we got to it, and then we took a almost a year hiatus from the show. Now we're back, so I still was very good about not rewatching stuff.
Big Endgame itch, and I know it. We need to. I want to wait for the review.
You have to. You have to wait at this point.
It's like I feel like an addict. I'm just like
it's our motivation to keep going here.
It's absolutely motivation. I love it.
It's been long enough, but I definitely did rewatch. And one Sunday I rewatched Infinity War and Endgame back to back, just my whole day. It was months ago though, so it'll still hit.
I do plan to do that eventually, but I am going to make sure that we get to the end of this series as it stands before I do that. What about favorite non-title character? So anyone in the movie past Doctor Strange that stands out or is memorable or you kind of gravitated towards? I think there are a few options here to differing qualities. JT, you didn't want to go first with this one, did you? You wanted that moment.
Yeah, I could do a moment. It doesn't matter either way.
Let's have for character. Let's have John go first then.
All right. I'll take the ancient one, Tilda Swinton. I thought that character was super, super cool, and I mean, to me, it's not even close in terms of like who stuck out more than Doctor Strange in this film. Absolutely her. Her role was really cool. I thought that her initial introduction where we were deceived a little bit. There was an older Asian man sitting there in the robe, and we're all like, all right, man, like, say something. And she walks in serving him tea, and she, her cadence and the way she carried herself. I thought awesome character, and she just crushed the role.
I agree with you, John. I wouldn't have necessarily picked her here, but I know there was some controversy around all that. I really thought she was good. And I thought that, this is a new Doctor Strange. This is MCU. This is, essentially, though they're established characters, these are new stories to tell. And I thought she did really good. And she's a character that I did not anticipate, or an actress in this film, I did not anticipate gravitating towards. But I did. And I liked a lot of her kind of one-liners and concise thoughts on philosophy, in magic, and in the multiverse, and on Doctor Strange's growth. I thought that she did a nice job. So
I thought she was a
great choice.
She was a good backbone to this film. She was like, I've said it before, but she was the moral compass, and maybe moral isn't the proper word, but she was what Doctor Strange was. I mean, we hop to the future. We know that she knew Doctor Strange's path the whole time. She had seen the future, so she obviously was leading him to this path. But she was kind of the reason for a lot of his actions, and she set the tone, and she explained the magic, and she brought us into this world, for lack of a better term.
And you know what? I also liked her presence in Endgame, like a very nice role as we got a few movies down the line there. But JT, what about you for non-title characters that stuck out?
Gotta give me Baron Mordo. I can't pronounce his name. The actor, Chiwetel Ejiofor. I think his name.
I'm with you. I'm not sure on that.
Can't help you.
Can't pronounce it. I had to look it up just because I knew it was like Chi something, and it's whatever. Chiwetel Ejiofor. Either way, great actor. I think he played this part amazing. He's super passionate. When he was obviously in his scenes, sort of a motivating factor for Strange, the guy that kind of pushed him. And I loved his kind of arc of coming from a bad background and being some kind of broken person that the Ancient One felt like she could fix. And for all intent and purposes, with the post credits, we kind of expect him to be involved with the Multiverse of Madness, hopefully. So I love him as a character. He was just great.
I agreed with all that, by the way. For me, I didn't really. I thought this was a little bit tough. I love Mads Mikkelsen. I think he is a good actor. I enjoy his presence in just about anything that he's in. And man, what a hot streak. I mean, he was in Doctor Strange. A month later, he's in Rogue One. And then just a few years later, he's in 2 years later, he's in Death Stranding, right? So, like, I mean, just incredible kind of geek cred, if you will, there. So for me, I love Wong. I think he's a fun character. He's kind of the pulse of the film in a lot of cases when it comes to obviously those lighter moments. But believe it or not, I'm going to go with someone that is very under the radar, I think. And it's actually Rachel McAdams' character and Christine. I like their relationship between her and Stephen Strange a lot. Like, whether it's at the hospital or in those kind of quieter moments in the first act where she is trying to help him through his injuries. And that she doesn't take crap from him, but she still really, at the same time, loves him and feels this compassion for him. She just seems like a really good person. I like the way Rachel McAdams played this, and I've liked her in other movies prior to that, outside of the MCU. So her presence in the MCU was one that I was like, oh, I'm excited that she's a part of this. And I thought she was a nice character. Obviously, nothing's terribly flashy by any long stretch of the imagination, but I loved the dynamic and the chemistry that I think she had with Benedict on this one.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about her character, but I do want to touch on Wong because I was excited going back to this because I haven't seen this movie in probably over a year. I was excited to get some more Wong, and then I realized, man, everything I like about that character is really from Infinity War. I was expecting him to be more, to be funnier and to have more clips and stuff like that, and he is kind of he always has that that tone to him, but he doesn't really give us that awesome he's not the character that I appreciate until Infinity War. So I was a little bummed, like, oh man, he really is kind of like one not the one dimensional, but just not giving me not enough comedy.
I'm with you, John, because I remembered it very differently, and it's probably because I didn't mention this when I asked you guys the question, but I think I've seen this about 5 times. But that's not the Wong I remember because the one from Infinity War just sticks out so much more. Yeah. And that's it takes time to develop, right? But I really expected a lot more humor, and there are those moments, but it's not totally.
I didn't like serious Wong in the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I think that's a little bit by design. Maybe they were fumbling their way through finding that character, but in the end, he's kind of become an endearing character that people love, I think. Before we get on to that moment, quote unquote, so we're gonna talk about that moment of the movie, whether it was a quote or a small moment or a big action sequence. What was, if you could pick one, something that just really resonates in your mind? We want to talk about it a little more in depth, but I'm going to bring it back to the show sponsor. So the MCU Reviewed here on the Geekiverse is sponsored by our wonderful friends over at Fantastic and 26 Shirts. Go to 26shirts.com/Fantastic. And every 2 weeks, you're going to find some new t-shirts that you can purchase. The Need. A good chunk of every shirt sale goes to an individual in need, a charity in need, or a family in need. I just want to mention, at the time of filming, I believe we've got another 10 days for this campaign. There's a really, really awesome Buffalo-themed, it's quote, "Hey baby, I hear Buffalo calling." It's basically the Frasier logo, if you remember the show Frasier, with Buffalo and the city outlined. It's really awesome. But how are you helping when you purchase that shirt? This one is going to, forgive me if I pronounce the last name wrong, but Jade Alexin, 22 years old, born and raised in Corfu, New York. Tongue twister for me for some reason. She moved in the summer of 2020 to New Orleans to start her life after graduating from the University at Buffalo with a bachelor's degree in community mental health. Unfortunately, in this January, she started feeling sick but dismissed those symptoms. I'm having all kinds of trouble here, guys. I apologize. She assumed it was just from her busy lifestyle, but she unfortunately collapsed on the floor in January 27, 2021, and was sent to the hospital. Blood work showed that she was diagnosed with TTP, which is a very rare blood disorder and needs to be treated quickly, as it's a life-threatening emergency. With being as rare as it is, there is no explanation to what causes it, what will trigger future episodes, and leaves many other questions. She spent several weeks in the hospital receiving blood and plasma transfusions and received a chemo-like drug for 4 weeks, as it was shown in other cases to reduce the chances of relapses. Every case is different. Please consider purchasing a shirt to have some of those funds go right to Jade's online fundraiser. You can also find a link for a separate fundraiser for her at 26shirts.com. Just click on the Frasier shirt, the "Hey Baby, I Hear Buffalo Calling," and you can go and make a purchase there or donate directly. But guys, this is why 26 Shirts and Fantastic do what they do, right? They've donated over $1.1 million in their 8 years directly to these places. So they put their money where their mouth is. They're not just here to help. They don't say they're here to help. They exist to help. And we see it with a case like this in Jade. So to the listeners and viewers at home, if you've got the opportunity to spare some time or some money or to even pass it on to a family or a friend, I'm sure beyond belief that Jade and her family would appreciate that. So again, last time, that's 26shirts.com/Fantastic. All right, gentlemen. JT, we promised we'd start with you for that moment. That moment of Doctor Strange. What is it? We got to hear it.
I'm going deep in the archives here for my geekness. Okay, so there's an Avengers animated, technically a series but movie, where they fight Thanos, and in that one of the scenes when they're fighting Thanos, they do the time stone time loop, where Thanos keeps killing them and they keep coming back and back and back. So immediately when I saw that, I was sad, but also happy because I got to see it in live action. Because I knew they were going to do it in Endgame, or what we thought was part 1 and part 2. Happy because I got to see what I loved in that animated scene and kind of in person with Dormammu. So the Dormammu time loop scene, loved the little bit of comedy that came with it as well, in terms of Strange just getting killed in different ways and him knowing he's going to get killed and just different ways he is getting killed, and he's just like, whatever, I'm good with it. Dormammu as a villain, I think, is awesome too. I'm not sure if he's going to be in Multiverse of Madness. Probably not, is my guess. But I genuinely just love that scene, going back to the geekiness of my my animated love for some Marvel content. So it was awesome to see live action. I'm literally like shaking my brother when I'm watching. I'm like, do you know what this is? And my little brother at the time didn't watch any of the animated stuff. He does now all the time, but he's like, no, he's probably even know how old he is at that time. He's probably like, was it 5 years ago? He's 13. I had no idea what you're talking about. Like, oh, well, I'm excited. But live action, a scene that I loved an anime series. Saw live action, and I was so excited for it. So that's my hands down my moment. Probably not something anybody else wanted, but
I love that tie-in, and I was just gonna say I'm not sure either John or myself would have gotten there. With I don't think we have that background. So for you to pull that out, JT, that's pretty awesome, because you took it to a new level, I think.
Love it.
I love when you get nods to either the comics or other material, like an animated series or animated film, and you pull it to the big screen like that, because to me it's one of those moments like you just described, where it's like, oh my gosh, yes, I see what they're doing there, and it's a kind of wink to the fans who would know that, like you in this case.
That's the thing, is like with the MCU, I feel like they always they try not to, they draw from the source content, but they try to change things up so people don't just know what's going to happen. And I feel like maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. Maybe I can ask Kevin Feige if I ever meet him someday. That was a callback to that specifically. There's no way he didn't look at that or know of that content, or somebody on his team didn't and said, we don't want to do this in part 1 or part 2, but we can fit this here. And I think it makes sense. And that's how they went with it. So you, Scott Derrickson, I wish you were doing Multiverse Madness, but I love Sam Raimi as well. And Kevin Feige, thank you too.
Well, two things quick. Kevin Feige is what Dave Filoni is to Star Wars, in my opinion.
Oh, yes.
Does his homework, knows his stuff, and if he doesn't, I would imagine his team does. It gets done somehow, right? Two, I think you meant when you meet Kevin Feige, at some point, whether that's us hosting a panel or we get him on the show here, but, plan on that.
I will email his people.
Have his people talk to our people, aka us.
Works for us.
John, what's that moment of Doctor Strange for you?
I'm doubling down. That's my moment too. For different reasons. I had no tie into the comic. That wasn't a moment where I'm like, oh, they did. I never, not the comic, the animated series. I'd never seen that. Didn't realize it was taken from there or even inspired by something else until just right now and when you said that. But for me, I just thought that was such a really, really cool way to have a final battle without having a final battle. There's no final fight to this movie. There is no, every Marvel movie, every superhero movie, everyone meets up at the very end and there's a huge fight. That's just the way it always goes, and they do a really good job of keeping that stuff fresh and keeping you interested and having, crazy set pieces. This movie did not have that. I mean, you can argue there's two big bads in this movie, but Doctor Strange didn't really fight either of them, right? He just uses his powers to outsmart this person and basically make him surrender. That plus the visuals of the scene. This is where I'm talking about. The colors are just absolutely insane. The cinematography and, like John said, the comedy of him just getting demolished all sorts of different ways. Dormammu just getting mad and throwing hundreds of spikes through him or flicking him into the sun and stuff like that. I mean, that's kind of the way I'm at. Where I'm at with this movie is like, I love the film. It's a very good, very cohesive, but there's not a lot of those moments to pick from for me. So that's why I double down and I say this is the one for me.
I like that. I don't think we've ever doubled down before. We've talked about it, but I got to respect it. I do love when that's happening over and over again, and Dormammu kind of goes, "This is a little bit Jabba the Hutt here." He goes, "What? How is this happening?" I love that he's conscious of it, right? Like, because you would think, almost in theory, that the scene plays over and over again, but that he wouldn't realize it. And I love that he does, because it really adds to it. And obviously it doesn't work if he doesn't realize that, because otherwise he'd just keep killing Doctor Strange forever. So yeah, that's very interesting. And all the terrible, gruesome ways Doctor Strange dies, my goodness.
Right.
Some of those are just awful. So for me, I don't, I could piggyback off of that. I love some of the cinematic moments, especially in the city, when the city's going haywire with all the dimension stuff, and Tilda's there, and they're kind of running with Caecilius. I like that. But for me, it's a smaller moment. I already mentioned that I like the character Christine. I like when Strange gets back and they're in the hospital again, and they're doing what they got to do in terms of surgery. But I love that Strange apologizes to Christine. There's a very subtle, soft moment that tells us that this character has gone a long way in a short time. Get over that ego, that kind of, people compare it to like that Tony Stark ego, to be willing to say on a human side, I'm sorry, I screwed up. It's very subtle and small, and it's not something you'd think that I would kind of pick out in a superhero movie, but it was, because it humanizes our character a little bit. And I think a lot of us struggle with certain things, whether it's arrogance or an ego like that, or just how you treat people generally. I know I'm going a little bit deep here, but I thought that was a nice thing, because Christine more than deserved that, right? She stood by him. She was willing. She's getting him groceries when his hands are not working because of that awful accident. And I don't know, like, that's someone that you should really, really take care of, because she took care of you and you treated her terribly. So that's it. That's kind of my moment for the film, past some of the big battle stuff. Do we want to get to my bullet points here? I think it's nothing too crazy. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So we watched this a few weeks ago. We had planned to record last week, but we didn't get there. So sometimes I look at these bullet points and I have no idea what I was talking about.
I love that. That.
So I'm going to gloss over some of them, but some of them I'll read to you. No pun intended here, but first bullet point is things start to get weird in the MCU, right? Like, this is, or strange, as you may say. There's a lot of different dynamics here. It's how he's fighting his enemy. It's like John alluded to, it's not necessarily really a big battle at the end, but he's outsmarting him by using the time stone. So things get weird here, and as we get further on into Infinity War and Endgame and all the weird stuff that happens there, and the quantum realm and Ant-Man, plus all the madness that we see in WandaVision and what we're going to see in the next Doctor Strange, this is where it all starts. This is a pivot moment for the MCU on some scale. So a lot of that we owe back to this movie. I wrote that the movie's at its best visually when the architecture is involved. So we're talking about like the cityscape all moving left and right and upside down.
The Inception kind of stuff. It's very well done. It looks great.
It's the best way to put it, is the Inception stuff. Do you guys think that was better done, or do you think that like the color dynamic was done better? These are two separate things.
Yeah,
but
I think they're on par and they both stand out.
I kind of, when you're speaking in the beginning, John, I think the color pop more so than anything, watching it HDR, like just now watching it, maybe not seeing it as much in theaters, but on the rewatch, 100% color popping for me. I mean, everything's just beautiful. I mean, like you said, the magic and the different universes we see, and I mean, it just pops. Literally just pops. I felt like I was like with him when he was traveling through the multiverse.
Oh yeah, for sure. That was like being on a roller coaster a bit.
Right.
You kind of felt that, especially with TVs of the size we mentioned.
Right.
The HDR definitely made a difference for me because I always thought the colors were a little bit, they were good, but they were not necessarily as crisp as I thought they were in, say, like a 1080 high def. So you watch them in 4K, you watch HDR, and that made a big difference for me. But the architecture was where it's at for me. So I put most visually interesting MCU film, and I think even to this point, it probably still is. You could say up to that point, but as we've gotten all the MCU movies today, I think that is still kind of the bar for being interesting. The fire, I called this the fire portal, right? When they do the circle and you see the sparks. I put that has become iconic so quickly. Because we
took one scene, just took the one scene in Endgame.
Exactly, and even a little bit, prior to that in Infinity War, when you see it, you're like, oh man, it's Doctor Strange. It's Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
But when you see that in Endgame, holy crap! Like goosebumps again right now. What a moment among many moments, but that's what started it. So think about that as you watch this if you're listening at home. I also put there's brief parallels between Strange and Stark's origins. If you think back to Tony Stark in the MCU and Iron Man, what he goes through. He gets abducted. He's in that cave. He's going through a really rough time. Steven's version of that is having his world taken away from his hands, right? Like that is his go-to because he's this incredibly smart individual that is a surgeon. They've both got girls that take care of them and love them and probably shouldn't be with them because they're too good. But then on the flip side, they both have their moments where they realize that they need to be better individuals and better counterparts to those women. And then there's their intellect. They're both incredibly smart and at the beginning, at least, very rich. As we know, Strange blows through a lot of, unfortunately, his savings in trying to fix his hands. So, I think there's a lot of parallels there. So when we finally get them in Infinity War in a room together, they don't like each other. And I think that it's because they're just too similar. It's kind of funny.
Both very arrogant. I think you're right. Very similar trajectories. The one thing I will say is that Doctor Strange his intentions were a lot more selfish for a lot longer throughout the film. It took a while for him to actually get on board and to actually, to get sold on what he was doing. He was in it for himself the whole time. Even when he started to learn this stuff, there was a moment where he's like, oh, I'm not here to fight a world battle, an interdimensional battle. I'm here to fix my hands. Like, what are we talking about here? That was a deep part of the film. Early on, right in the beginning of Iron Man, he's in it. He shuts down Stark weapons. He's just like, all right, I've seen the light. He's still an ass to the people around him because he's arrogant and stuff like that. But his intentions were flipped sooner. Doctor Strange, and I think even the flip is more significant too, because Doctor Strange straight up becomes the Sorcerer Supreme. Like he gives it all away. He's desperate and he's selfish for the longest time, and all of a sudden that flip is just very drastic, and he's all about the time stone and preserving our reality and stuff like that. So similar origins, but a lot more at stake and a lot more severe for Strange.
I mean, you argue he didn't flip that until right after the Ancient One, the Ancient One, right?
Mm-hmm.
When died. That's and then the end, the final scene comes up, right? So literally, like you said, 80%, 85% of the movie was him still learning and wanting to be a part of the bigger story out there. So
yeah, I think those are great points, and it's interesting to see the parallel because they're both so prominent. Obviously, Iron Man is top 2 when we talk MCU, but to see those and how they came along is very interesting to compare. In the car right before the accident, there's a reference to Rhodes' accident in Civil War. They're talking about surgeries and stuff that he like challenging surgeries to ask if Strange wants to take them on. But he doesn't want to take him on if he doesn't think he can find a way to do it, right? Because he doesn't want to ruin his perfect record. But they reference, I don't remember specifically what they said. I think it was spinal lacerations, maybe. But
I've heard 2 theories about that. I've heard that it's referencing Rhodes, and I've also heard that it's referencing the pilot in Hammer Tech, the pilot that is testing out the drone, and he spins around and breaks his back that we see in Iron Man 2. but both of those, from what I understand, have been debunked, and the timeline doesn't match up for either.
Why wouldn't it match up for?
I don't know.
For Rhodes.
I don't know. I've just heard that neither of those are true. More digging to do, but the prevailing theory I've heard was the one in Iron Man 2 where it was Justin Hammer's pilot that it was some kind of, I forgot the wording they used, but that was the one I've heard people rumor. I've heard Rose tossed around too, but I didn't know either were confirmed, and I did think I heard they were debunked actually.
I respect that. I've got to do my research too, but I feel like it would be valid that it would be Rhodes only because they reference the Avengers in this movie. Yes.
Yes.
I feel like that. Okay.
Wong.
So if they reference the Avengers, it at least has to be after the Avengers are established. So that would debunk the Iron Man 2 guy, right off the gate with Hammer. I think. I don't know, unless, I'd have to do a little research on that. I'd put my money on it being Rhodes, but I feel like that was too obvious.
Yeah,
for them not
I just
to
almost think it's too high priority to just say like, oh, some military guy in a drone suit. Like everybody knows who War Machine is at that point. I don't know. Well, I guess I don't know. I
don't know. And with Civil War being the prior movie, I think that was kind of a thing, but interesting nonetheless. We talked about the Ancient One already. Love Tilda in this role. Thought she did a wonderful job. They talk a lot, especially early on, about mind over matter. I really do believe that there is something to be said there. And the Ancient One breaks it down very nicely, where she says your brain essentially tells your body what to do. So if you can kind of trick your body into believing that you're going to heal yourself. And then there was that one guy who's playing on the basketball court who also had an injury that he shouldn't have walked again, right? Like he shouldn't have come back from that. It sounds like a similar thing almost went, or at least they were trying to explain a similar thing when it came to mind over matter. So in real life, I believe that can kind of be a theme, and it was nice to see it in a movie. I also mentioned with how colorful Doctor Strange is overall, it begins a theme here in the MCU where the next kind of few movies, to some degree, had this crazy color palette. Guardians Volume 2 has a lot of that early on. It's this almost subtle way of connecting these movies past all the other threads. Guardians 2 has that crazy color sequence early on, and then even throughout the movie, it's just every color is loud and vibrant. Ragnarok, same way with how it was promoted. You see the really big color palette. And then to probably a lesser degree, but still the same nonetheless, is Black Panther. The theme there was a little bit more like a purple hue when you look at a lot of what was going on throughout the theme there. So it was black and purple. But again, kind of these intense colors. I appreciate that from an artistic standpoint. Maybe my favorite quote from the movie, and I believe this was in the second Doctor Strange trailer, is Mordo talking to Doctor Strange after he gets to the Ancient One's place. He says, "It's the Wi-Fi password. We're not savages." I think that is just awesome. Benedict totally looks the part. We talk a lot about really good castings in the MCU. I think this is right up there with just about anything else we can talk about, whether it's Chris Evans is Captain America. You can talk about Hemsworth as Thor. You can go down the list. I think they did a really good job casting Benedict in this role, not just for his acting pedigree, but when he's shaving for the first time and eventually when he gets into the full suit and the cape, it really looks the part. I mean, it's pretty damn awesome to be like, hey, here's a guy in real life and we think he looks like, this established comic book hero.
Right.
Mordo says at one point, fight like your life depends on it because one day you might have to. That is alluding to a little bit to the end of the film, but I think it also foreshadows Infinity War, which is happening not too long after this. I don't know if this might be a stretch. I put it as kind of like a bullet point, but in terms of foreshadowing, Wong and Mordo berate Steven for almost ruining the time continuum. I guess here we think about, it's June 2021. We're about to get Loki. And that's what that series is about, right? Like Loki screwed things up from a time continuum standpoint, and now they're going to be chasing to get that back. I don't even know if that was a thing or that was too early. But regardless, it seems like a little bit of foreshadowing as we got, to the Loki series. Dormammu is a terrible name.
I like it. I'm in.
Yeah,
Dormammu?
I think it's terrible.
Love saying it. Dormammu.
Dormammu.
Dormammu,
I've come to bargain.
Yes, that's my bullet point. That's it. Dormammu is a terrible name. So what I originally had down for my non-title character was the Cloak of Levitation. So Doctor Strange's cloak.
That would have been good.
What a character for not really being a character, right? Like you can think of other entities throughout other movies and be like, wow, there was really a true presence there. But like, don't you guys think that those two complemented each other so well? It had, despite no dialogue or facial expressions, a really big presence.
No doubt. A lot of character there.
Using time to beat a villain is a little bit foreshadowing of what we see in Infinity War and Endgame. And Caecilius says to Doctor Strange, you can't fight the inevitable. And I thought that was only ironic because Thanos throughout Endgame says, I am inevitable. Yeah. Well, it turns out you can. Probably a coincidence. Just a few left to go here. Wong's laugh, which catches us all off guard at the end of the movie. It's pretty funny because the way we remember Wong is more of the goofy character, like the fun-loving guy, not the straight up librarian, right? But that laugh was like, oh, this guy gets it a little bit. I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but every time I heard it, especially at that point in the MCU, hearing the term Infinity Stone got me jazzed. Even to this point, rewatching it 5 years later, I'm like, oh yes, we are getting down to the nitty gritty. Yes. Mm-hmm. And then the mid-credits scene obviously is ripped from Ragnarok, but I remember this. So this is what I actually probably remember most about my theater going experience here is thinking that and thinking, where the hell has Thor been? It's been a few years since we've seen him, right? Like him and Banner took a back seat to a lot of the other new characters that we've been establishing here. But that was a beautiful way to set up Ragnarok. It was a very well cut scene, and we saw some good chemistry between Hemsworth and Benedict. So that's what I got. Those are my notes for the movie. Anything else that I missed, or anything else that you guys wanted to cover?
I have a question. Sorry, John.
No, you got it.
Did you guys like Caecilius?
I didn't hate him. I think he was relatively forgettable, but there was nothing to dislike about him for me.
He was extremely forgettable for me. Yeah. I mean, I almost see him as just having no purpose whatsoever.
Mm.
If he's not, I can see where you're going with that because he's not the big bad, right?
He's not. I mean, there's no Dormammu,
and he doesn't need to be, right? But I just forgettably speaking, I just doesn't hit with me. And also one last thing, the book from what's the book that Wanda has at the end of WandaVision in the post-credit scene?
Yeah, I don't know the name of it, but I know what you're referencing.
The Darkhold. The Darkhold is missing in Doctor Strange as well. I don't know if that's something you guys noticed. They had it in the back one of the bookcases.
That's
a book is missing.
Yeah,
it's not Caecilius' book. Caecilius just took a page out of the book.
Now that you're saying this, okay, this is totally ringing a bell.
What's actually missing. The Darkhold is nobody knows where it was. So maybe Wanda, that's explained in the Multiverse of Madness how she got it.
Well, was it in the basement where all
the books were? So like
no. Who's the other witch in WandaVision?
So she may have actually stolen it then. Yeah.
Wasn't it sitting in the basement like all? Wasn't it like right there?
The Darkhold.
The book that Wanda had, if it's the Darkhold, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying I don't know if we obviously if it was stolen from her or how she got it, but they just showed it missing in the background.
What is the other witch's name? Why can't I think of
I can picture her. I have no idea what her name is. The neighbor.
Agatha Harkness. Yeah, like the first time we get
the song. Agatha.
Right. The first time we get like her reveal of her in the basement, I'm pretty sure that book is like on display and like glowing and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so she definitely has it. I'm just saying in terms of obviously before that with the movie in the background, a lot of people thought the book that was missing was Caecilius' book that he took the page from. He only took the page. That book missing is the Darkhold that Agatha has.
I recall seeing that, but then I recall saying somebody else say why it wasn't the case, but I never looked in further, so I believe you. But I don't believe Josiah about Rhodey.
I just
Well, what?
About Rhodey.
Oh yeah, no, I'm right. You should believe me.
You're not, because I looked it up and they're referencing a 35-year-old Marine colonel working on experimental armor, none of which lines up with Rhodey. The only thing that lines up is the timeline that it could have happened in like Civil War. What happened around them? It's not 35. He could have been a colonel at one point. He could have been a colonel at one point, but he wouldn't have gotten it through the Marines. He would have gotten it through the Air Force. And the Iron Man armor is certainly not experimental.
Research.
I'm reading it from America. I didn't do one article has all that. I didn't do all that research. Just one article debunked it, and then the same person who wrote the article sat down with Kevin Feige and asked how much should we be reading into Wikipedia articles about all of those references, and Kevin Feige laughed and said not much. So.
He would be what I care about here, so that means more than the article, I would say. But still,
it's the facts behind why it doesn't line up.
Feige.
I will say a little bit of BS though, because yes, they absolutely are planting Easter eggs all over the place. That's
100%.
Absolutely a thing.
They were talking specifically about that scene though. Like they asked, like how much Wikipedia research should we be doing on those injuries, and he's like, not much.
Yeah, I would not waste my time on that.
Yep.
Do we want to get to ranking this?
That's what we're here for. Name of the game.
All right, let's do this.
I think that's why we're here. Let's get it.
What we're here for. Okay. All right, got them up. Current ranks. Make sure I have the most accurate rankings. Don't want to have that mishap again. Number 1, Captain America: Civil War. Number 2, Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 3, The Avengers. Number 4, Avengers: Age of Ultron. Number 5, Captain America: Winter Soldier. Number 6, Iron Man. 7, Iron Man 3. 8, Ant-Man. 9, Iron Man 2. 10, Captain America: The First Avenger. 11, Thor. 12, Thor: The Dark World. 24, The Incredible Hulk.
Sounds about right.
I made this comment, but Captain America: First Avenger is extremely low. It's gonna keep going lower.
It is, but it should be.
It should be.
I don't think so. How did Rashad feel about that? Was he?
He was on board. I think Dell was on that episode, and Dell is a big fan of that. And he was the one who was a proponent to get it higher than. But yeah, it's a good movie, but ship has sailed. Where do we start?
All right, just curious.
Where do we start?
Hey, no, maybe not. Maybe he uses the snap. We should. So John and I have 3 left.
Snapping for a while.
Right.
Yeah, we have 3 left. John has
2 got
left.
2.
Yeah.
All right, John, take it away.
Starting point.
I'm very curious.
So I mean, I don't want to jump the gun here. So let's just start where I think is clearly obvious above Thor: Dark World. Like we kind of see Dark World and The Incredible Hulk as not the best movies, right? There's not too much to take out of those. Probably gonna finish last and second last if I had to guess, but let's start above Thor: Dark World, under Thor. Okay, start low.
Yep.
Do both of you guys think it's better than Thor?
Yes.
So do I.
Yes.
Do both of you think it is better than Captain America: The First Avenger?
Yes.
No.
You don't.
Mm-mm.
You would lock it right here between Thor and Captain America: The First Avenger.
Yep.
No.
That's where I keep it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, no, that not me. I definitely put it above The First Avenger. So I it passes. It's between that. John, do you think it's better than Iron Man 2?
What?
So
I can't believe you're even questioning this. I had you pegged.
It is better than Iron Man 2 because I am not a fan of. No wait, that was Iron Man 3, right? Mandarin.
Yeah.
Fake Mandarin.
Yeah, that's 3.
Better than 2. Better than 2 and 3.
Okay,
but
well,
2.
we got to get past Ant-Man first. Okay.
I know. I'm just thinking.
So you say better than Iron Man 2? I agree. I think it is better than Iron Man 2. Do you
that
think
is surprising to me?
Do you think it's better than Ant-Man?
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, Ant-Man's where it gets tricky because it's blocking it. It's blocking the progress.
No way. Come on. Stop it right now.
Oh,
Of course, I'm motivating you to push it up the list. So
I feel like
Yeah,
so
right.
when it comes
Taking
to the
them on.
rankings, and when you guys think of it, right? Like, is it just looking at the movie as a standalone, or how, or
Standalone.
how it contributes to the MCU?
no, I say standalone because
Because if it's the latter and the former, then I put it above Ant-Man.
I think you're allowed to consider whatever you want while ranking them. But what I consider is just, my enjoyment of the film. I don't get granular about it. Like how when I sit down and watch Ant-Man and when I sit down and watch Doctor Strange, which movie was more enjoyable? That's where I'm at. I'm not weighing, I guess, too much into like the weight of the film on the universe in these rankings.
that's where I'm at too. But if
My moment is just sitting with me, and I love Ant-Man. I really don't want to put it, and you may not even let it go that way anyway. You know what? Above Ant-Man. You make the decision, John. I can't make it.
Nah, not happening.
Okay.
I like Ant-Man better. Yeah, Ant-Man, they're very, like I said it before in this episode, they're very similar films to me, the way they hit, the characters that I certainly did not expect to care about, but I was at the point in the MCU where I was totally ready to trust Marvel, and I saw both those movies in theaters, I think opening weekend, if not night of, whatever. They both delivered very, I would put them neck and neck. Like these are very similar movies to me.
I'm not upset with that. I just didn't want to be the one to keep it low.
No, I feel you. It's tough. There's a lot of good movies on this list. A lot of good movies to coming up still. But for me, Ant-Man, Paul Rudd, the comedy, just it is tough. It is tough because I like the antagonists in this film better than I do in Ant-Man. I think I like the fact that we're fighting for the universe and Dormammu, and I can never pronounce the other bad guy's name. There you go, Caecilius. I can pronounce it. I just can never remember it properly. And the fact that we're dealing with a time stone, like all that stuff really puts it up there for me. But Paul Rudd is just what puts Ant-Man right above it.
That's what made it. Even though I still voted Doctor Strange above, I just
they're neck and neck for me.
Look at both, and
Yep.
it is.
It's no question for me that I like Ant-Man far better than Doctor Strange. Talking the movies here, and I like every movie to some degree on this list, but
Sure.
Ant-Man is just man. I could watch that movie. I could have it on in the background. I could fall asleep to it. Like it is great. And Doctor Strange I like, but it's not one that I will watch outside of an MCU rewatch.
Yeah.
There are certain movies on this list that I probably would not just go and watch on their own, but because the rest of the MCU brings it up collectively, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's fair. And this is where it gets interesting because like you know how high I am in the Iron Man series. You and I are both there. I love all three Iron Man films, but as I think back on them and I start to kind of pick them apart as films, not coming off that high of having just watched them and having just being blown away by Tony Stark and thinking about the big bads and the stories and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for me. Doctor Strange is a better movie to me than Iron Man 2, even though
which one did you enjoy more? Because that's what we were talking about.
But so there's a filter where we're talking about the fact that I just watched Doctor Strange and I just watched Iron Man 2. So coming off the high of the movie I just watched, the answer is Doctor Strange. I think
like a recency bias.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that I'm saying you have it.
No,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? I mean, I'm coming off the high of it, and that's just the way I felt when I'm talking about this list. I mean, you can ask me in a week and a half, and maybe I'll flip it, but yeah, I think Doctor Strange is a better movie
right?
than. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about the here and now. I think Doctor Strange is a better movie.
I can't be mad about that at all. Like I said, every movie on here, I'm cool with. I'm very interested to hear what the community's input is going to be on this one. So I want you, if you're watching or listening to this, go over to our Facebook page and or Twitter and comment on this post or this tweet and let us know where you would have this in this ranking up to this point, because I feel like it's divisive to a degree.
Really? I don't think so. I think we're going to see a lot of
I had it at the bottom. You guys had it, I wouldn't say significantly higher, but
two films
you had it a few movies up there. JT would have kept going with it a little bit further. So I wonder if there's anyone out there who's like, oh gosh, this is like right now, this is a top 5 or 6 movie, or oh no, this is right down there with Hulk and Dark World, or you're somewhere in between like us. Like I think there's a lot of gray area for that.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm interested. All right, so we got our new rankings.
We're locked in.
Guys, next week, buckle up. I'm just saying, like,
Guardians
I think
2?
Guardians 2, like, I hate to give away anything, but
Don't do it. No, because you already watched part of it.
Okay.
So don't give anything away. Leave it all. And
I won't.
I watched the whole thing and never mind.
You guys both have to restart the movie. You guys both have to watch it again.
Yep.
Doesn't count.
I will. I can do that anytime.
Oh gosh, I have to watch Guardians 2 again.
Oh no.
Woe is me. Love it.
Yeah, I'm
You
excited.
Love
guys
it.
hate my thoughts on it.
Guys,
Oh.
I have so much to say. That's fine, JT. I have so much to say on Guardians as I did the first one. That was maybe my favorite MCU reviewed episode that we did. I mean, and there's been a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
Like a lot of good ones. Every time it's great talking with you guys. It was great talking with Rashawn when Dell is on. But that episode was just a blast. So I really cannot wait to record that one. We've got an incredible string of movies coming up here. We've got Guardians. We've got a Spider-Man movie. We've got Thor Ragnarok, and then oh boy, we get right into Avengers. It gets intense, everybody. So
Captain
we hope
Marvel's
you're
in there
along.
somewhere.
Yes. Prior to
Sprinkled in
Endgame.
there. Yeah.
So we've got a lot of good coming your way here at thegeekiverse.com. Hope you're here for the journey. Watch it with us. We want you to get involved in that discussion. Go to Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or rate it at thegeekiverse.com. Alternatively, you can listen to this podcast wherever you get podcasts, or you can go and watch the video version at youtube.com/thegeekiverse. We're going to wrap things up here. Closing thoughts on Doctor Strange and a look ahead to Guardians Volume 2. John.
I'm excited. I honestly haven't seen Guardians 2 in a while either. Guardians 2 for a while was a movie. We say this a lot, but it was a movie I put on to go to bed to. And I mean like ready to fall asleep, and I just want to see Groot dance in the beginning. Like that's how much I rewatched just kind of like that first scene. I probably haven't actually rewatched the movie in like literally past the first scene in a very long time. So I'm excited to go back to it.
JT. Give me something.
Can I say you'll see?
Yeah.
Give us a tease.
You'll see.
We'll see.
I'll just say that we'll see.
Good enough.
You guys are not gonna like me after this. After that.
JT, that's impossible. We'll always like you. I will say this. And is the Guardians mega fan that I am, seeing Guardians 2 and then seeing it as we've gotten away from release has really changed my perspective on the movie. So just as a little tease out there, not sure. I mean, you could probably guess which way that went for me, but still, at the end of the day, we need you to tune in and be a part of the show. So the MCU Reviewed is presented by Fantastic, a division of 26 Shirts. We had a blast talking about Doctor Strange here today. Again, visit us on social media. Let us know what you thought of the movie and where you'd have it ranked. And we'd love to see you next week for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. For John and JT, I'm Josiah. You guys have a wonderful rest of your week.